Let's call this meeting to order. Becca, will you please call the roll?
Gandy. Ham.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, so tonight's agenda basically is to go over this comprehensive plan, and I think the idea is that we're just going to start in the back and go over each individual section there. We'll go to the implementation plan.
I can't remember what it is.
So we'll start, we are on page, whatever page that is. Doesn't have a page. Infrastructure. So I think what I'd like to do is just go down through kind of the shaded areas and quickly review that, discuss it, pass it.
Are we able to get this pulled up? Because none of us can get it to load over here. Yeah. I don't know if we're asking too much of the Wi-Fi.
Which document?
The one on the bottom. Oh, sorry, the other one.
Oh, I think that's the wrong one.
One on the
It's
top.
already, it just says Intel.
It's the other one you want,
There you go.
the top one.
Thank you, Jason.
Page
Page 137, I believe.
Yeah, you want to go to page 137 when you can get there. It's actually 138, to tell you the truth.
This thing might be a while.
That'd be awesome, Mel. I'm wondering if we all need to stop clicking on it. You clicked on it, I clicked on it, you clicked on it. Again.
No, I didn't. And you're all getting this spinny wheel.
I was about to when you.
Thinking we just hit it way too hard.
You printed it off. Oh, there we go. Maybe.
Psych. Oh, he's moving. All right. 138. Sorry.
Is that it?
Yep. Looks like it.
Looks like it. Okay. First section, G1, maintain the city's infrastructure to support the health and growth of the community. There's 2 items there. Any questions on that section?
Is this also an opportunity if we see any typos we might want to correct?
Yeah, that's a good
I think
idea.
so, yeah.
All right, on page 137, the implementation plan, first sentence, or second sentence, it's, I believe it, at least my reading is, the matrix is composed of goals, policies, and action items, each with, assigned with, a priority level and time frame. Is that with an extra word, that first with?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the second width should be struck, I believe.
okay. I don't think we need to pass that, do we?
The first with.
Okay. Okay, now page 138.
Well, we could just take
Yeah.
our changes and adopt all the changes at one time in one motion.
Okay, I thought we were gonna go like by section.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I'm just trying to help.
okay. Well, let's just do it section at a time then. So the first section is infrastructure. So there's 3 goals there. Are there any changes that anybody wants?
I just had a question about, under goal 3, policy statement number 1. So it says require sidewalks or reasonable connections to trails in new developments. That means one or the other, or do we want new sidewalks in all new developments? And maybe have connections to trails? I should think we would want to require sidewalks in new developments.
Yes.
Is that the intention?
Yes.
That's.
Then I think we should reword that a little bit to require sidewalks in new developments and reasonable connections if possible, or something like that.
would that make sense in a situation like subdivision on Walton Road where it's, 10, 12 houses, really wide streets? You're going to require that to have sidewalks?
I don't know, we could,
So it's expensive.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere.
not yet.
I mean, many of our newer developments do not have sidewalks.
Well, what's the
And-
intention of that policy then? Is it to require sidewalks or is it optional?
It's or. It's not, the intention is not to require both. It's to require some sort of connectivity, not both. So the or is supposed to be there.
So or gives us more flexibility.
For example, on Walton Road, you wouldn't put, if you don't put sidewalks there, you're very close to the trail. So that would make sense to connect that development to the trail like they already do. Another would be development out by Pilot Grove, very close to the trail, maybe not put sidewalks along the road, but make sure the development's connected to the trail like it is.
Hey, Melanie, maybe you want to come up by here, because I've got a feeling you're going to probably discuss more than anyone.
What section are we on?
Just
The first one.
Infrastructure,
It'd be a long,
Yeah, we're on
it'd be a long
infrastructure.
night.
All right.
implementation, the
Of
section
the
13.
infrastructure, I did.
Yeah.
I could get this open.
Yeah. So is that okay, Doug? Are you
Yeah,
okay
I
with
just want to know
that?
what the intention is, if we're
Okay.
requiring sidewalks or
Great.
not. It sounds like it's optional, one or the other, but not both, or maybe both.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to pass that section.
I move to pass the section on goals, policy statements, and action items for the infrastructure chapter
Okay, is there a
of the
second?
comprehensive plan.
Oops, sorry, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that was passed unanimously. Okay, now we're going to page 139, policy goals and actions for land use. Any other changes there? I'm just going to point out Ann Walton's point here. It appears that there are 17 future land use categories. Now, this is back in the section. More is better if it helps to create clear distinctions between land use categories. However, these 17 categories are sliced and diced, so finally that, in fact, it becomes confusing. It would be worth revisiting these and combining some of them. I'm just going to point that out. That was her suggestion. I went through them. They seem somewhat distinct to me, so I don't know if anybody has any comment on that.
Why do we have 17 categories?
So as far as why there's 17, that's what they recommended. But what we discussed with some folks on Facebook who asked the same question is you would still group like things together. So the one that we discussed on Facebook was mixed use. And the downtown core might be mixed use 1, just like we have a residential 1, a residential 2. Then the downtown peripheral would be a mixed 2, and then the entrepreneurial area might be a mixed 3. And so those mixed use zones might have very similar characteristics, just like our residential 1, 2, and 3. But yet then those smaller areas define them a little bit better. Maybe we say that the mixed use 1 doesn't allow residential on the first floor. Again, just examples on what we could use, but I think those smaller categories allow us to then make more specific zoning. We could make more specific zoning to that area rather than just lumping all mixed use together, or all residential together, or all industrial. It allows us to pinpoint the certain features of those areas.
Thank you, Melanie. Any other changes?
I I just had a question here about G4. There was an action item to adopt stream buffer ordinances to protect key stream corridors along type 1 perennial streams. Did they get moved, or did I miss it someplace, or is it something we don't want to do?
DNR will be making us do that within the next couple months. So it was duplicating it to have it here, and it's required by state code. So
Okay.
DNR is waiting for the new floodplain maps to be accepted, which should be in the next 6 months.
Alrighty.
That's the only question I have.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to pass the section on land use.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Toohill. All those in favor, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that passed unanimously. Okay, we're going to public facilities on page 148. Excuse me, 140. Any comments or changes or questions here?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Anderson, second by Hallie to approve the public facilities section. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that passed unanimously. Housing, page 141. Melanie, do you have anything to add about this section?
I don't remember anything specific, but
The only question I had or thought I had was, can we put something in here to address the question of homelessness in Fairfield?
Okay,
I don't know what it would be, but it's been raised with me a couple times by people in town, and I made a note to bring it up.
so that would probably go under G3, under increase in support housing.
Yeah.
You want it under a plan to,
Under a policy?
or yeah, excuse me, a policy?
If it'd be a policy or an action item, but I don't know what it would be.
Or maybe it's an action item to study that issue?
Okay. Maybe we could identify how many homeless people we might have in Fairfield. It's kind of tricky because
Most aren't going to tell you. Most of them aren't going to tell you. If they're living out of a car, they're couch surfing.
Oh, I know,
embarrassed.
but
They're not going to talk about
I know
it.
this guy's living in his office downtown for a while, and other people moving with their relatives because they have no place to go.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to put it in there.
But if we see people on the street who don't have any place to go at night, I think we should try and address that question.
Yeah, I know a group of people are trying to work on potentially a shelter, though I know it's probably expensive and a lot of loopholes to get through, but yeah, it's an issue.
So how about study a homeless population and create any possible actions?
In their needs, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Study homeless population and create any possible actions.
Would
Any
that-
other
Would that be
discussion?
A6?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, yep, A6.
I'll move to approve with that addition.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Hallie, second by Toohill. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that approved with one amendment there. Thank you. Next section is natural resources. Melanie, anything here from your side?
Let's check the 8.
Okay. So this has to do with, I'll just read the goals. Continue to prioritize environmental protection within the Fairfield community. Preserve and enhance key environmental features in the community. Promote and encourage Fairfield residents and businesses to adopt sustainable and green practices. I know one of the things that Anne suggested that sustainable, that word means a lot to, means different things to different people, and she thought maybe we should define it a little bit more. I think that's always a challenge. It's been a challenge for a while, I think for the last 10 years, to really have people figure out what that means. So I don't know if that's something that you want to tackle or not. Any other questions, Doug, from your section? From that
No.
section? Okay. Alrighty. So if there's no questions or more discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve natural resources.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Ham. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, natural resources was approved unanimously. On to page 144, which is Parks and Recreation. Any comments there or questions?
Yeah, I have a question, or one at least. Let me see if I can find it here on the old version versus the new version. There was a statement in there that says provide educational opportunities as part of the Fairfield Parks and Recreation System, but it looks like it was struck in the revised version. Is that, I guess, why was that struck? Did someone here recommend striking it?
I think that was a discussion that we had with the consultants, and we already provide some education within Parks and Rec, so I didn't think it was something that we needed to have in there as something to continue or to add on to, because we already do it.
All right. How about the American Gothic Trail? Support the American Gothic Trail, that was struck as well. Does anyone know what that is, or?
There's not very much the city can do to support that. I mean, it's a regional trail, but there's no city land.
We're not connected to it?
Yeah, we're connected to it, but other than that, there's not really anything we can do. So, yeah, we can support it as like a whole, as a group of people, but for the city themselves to say we support it, it's, there's not really any backbone to it or substance.
All right. That's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion to pass Parks and Recreation.
Move to approve.
Alrighty, thank you.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Parks and Recreation is passed unanimously. Community character. Page 145 and 146. Any questions or comments?
So, so some of the terms in here, I asked them to put a glossary in so we all know what they were, which they did. But then we refer to something like complete streets, and we don't have a reference to that. I don't know what that is exactly. So could we put a link in to a website or a document that shows what complete streets is?
Well, the council adopted a complete street policy back in 2015 or 2014 as part of our green or blue zones designation.
So we could just put in
Link
there
to
with
that.
existing complete streets
Yeah, because
policy.
it was like a one-page resolution, I believe.
All right, so if we have an existing policy, I think we should refer to that policy in there, because it sounds like it's a separate document or,
Yeah, it didn't have a lot of teeth. It wasn't an ordinance or anything.
Doug, which one are you on?
oh, hold on. I have to go back and find it.
First one under G3.
G3.
Well, it's not in here anymore, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, under G3, it's P1.
Oh,
policy
that's
one.
right, I'm sorry. It's the new one.
Well, it does say other amenities in accordance with complete streets. You want to just, how do you want that?
With existing complete streets ordinance, I guess, or, is it an ordinance?
More,
Or a
no, it was just a
resolution?
policy.
Policy, so. I think we just refer to that, we have an existing policy that's,
Okay.
was passed,
Well, I guess if you just add the word existing before complete streets,
right?
that's what you need. Okay.
You probably still want the word policy after it too, don't you? So it notates.
Yeah, put the word policy in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it would say, and other amenities in accordance with existing complete streets policy.
Right.
Yep.
Then there was a policy in there that said separate future industrial sites from residential areas through a physical or land use barrier. And I kind of like that idea, but it's struck from the new version. Remember that one?
I don't. It's a good idea, though. It's developmental-wise.
I like it. I was over at Depot, and right across the street from the cell tower is, apartments, homes, 100 feet away. So it says separate. Could we encourage or put a word like that in there that's a little less definitive? And put that back in?
Which section are you wanting that?
It was under G4.
Okay.
Right.
Ensure new development enhances the quality of life in Fairfield. And then, whether it's now, there's now one P1, P2, and P3. I guess we could put that down as P4 if we had it. And the original verbiage was separate future industrial sites from residential areas through a physical or land use buffer.
You want to read that one more time?
Sure. Separate future industrial sites from residential areas through a physical or land use barrier. I guess that would become P4.
Separate future industrial sites from residential areas.
Yes.
I think the one concern, if I remember discussing this, was who's required to do that buffer. And so if a residential group wants to build next to an industrial site, we make whoever was there second build the buffer. But if the developer doesn't want to do so, I think your language as far as allowing it to be a little
Well, I think we should make it more flexible.
Yeah.
And less definitive, less commanding,
right.
and more of a encourage the development of those buffers.
Yeah. And because I want to say that like over by the Sky Factory in that residential area there, that was kind of talked about, that Sky Factory is actually in an industrial zone, but they've, you know, done on-site development to kind of provide that buffer.
But the buffer could be a park or something of that nature as well.
Or a trail, like
Or
that's
trail,
out there.
right.
Jim?
I am concerned a little bit from a planning and zoning point of view.
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry. You want to come up here?
Sure.
Jason's, waving the flag. We can't hear you.
Probably hear me now. The reason that I raised my hand is I'm concerned a little bit from a planning and zoning perspective when a proposal is brought to us to study before the commission or the council, is that it's a little bit vague yet, I think, because a land use barrier division could be higher density residential, or it could be commercial, or it could be another kind of development, or it could be a green space or a land use totally different from any kind of development. So I would suggest that you put a little bit more language in there if you're going to have that at all, just simply from a future planning and zoning issue.
Which language?
So does the word encourage
The land use.
satisfy that, what we're trying to do? That says it's not mandatory, but we'd like it, encourage that happens?
You want to define land use is what you want? Or specify more on the land use end of
I
it?
think so, yes, because I think that what you do is you set a potential trap for future planning and zoning commissions
Sure.
to try to carry out something that's some continuity through the course of time. If you're going to have the language at all, then it should have some opportunities and some specificity so that you have a standard to work with, is what I'm saying. So maybe don't have it at all and
Right.
You know,
something to consider.
Will buffer, if we just use buffer in there, will that satisfy the intent?
I think John has a comment too, but go ahead, Jim.
Well, in terms of development, I think a buffer, perhaps a buffer is just a different zoning class. Perhaps it's commercial or light industrial or higher residential density, as opposed to a stream or a green space or a forestry space. I think that those things probably either need to be more specific or completely taken out to the discretion of the planning and zoning of the future, is what I'm saying. I'm concerned about a standard not being established so that you can have some continuity and some continuum.
Well, I agree with Jim and the example of the park. What I'm concerned about is you may have a substantial developer in one of our industrial park areas that truly does want, right across the boundary line, to have residential that is there for employees. We've had this come up about every 5 years. John Kuster wanted to build apartments for people working for Optime down in the southwest part of town. There's been interest in things out around the fairgrounds south of there for possible residential to service one of the big manufacturers to the east of it in the current industrial park. And I can see this happening again down south of the corridor or bypass as far as one of the newer developments down there that doesn't really have a lot going on yet industrially, but is out there in a logical area of growth. Across the road from it, there's residential development going on right now. It's just a logical expansion of that. So I don't know how you leave enough flexibility for planning and zoning without having a pretty broad definition of what can be included in a buffer. And if you got a park going in, I don't know if you want to say that the general policy is that we'll encourage developers for this kind of thing to recognize the need for these buffers. But when you tell somebody how they've got to subdivide their property, you start butting heads with planning and zoning and saying you have to have it in there. One developer and manufacturer may say, well, I really do want to do that, and there may be somebody else that the last thing in the world is they want to promise something as far as residential, 500 feet away. And I remember the reaction out in the Sky Factory area when the neighborhood residential group came in and said, are you going to guarantee us that across the street on 12th Street, we're going to have more residential building to buffer us from light industrial that's like Sky Factory? And we sort of promised that when we did some zoning changes out there, but I think it was uncomfortable for you guys at planning and zoning.
Yeah, and you need a standard and a basis to protect the city more or less from itself, and to encourage the proper kind of development that you want. If that means a 500-foot buffer of green space, then we should probably say so, or at least encourage some form of definition so that at least we're protected in what we say to one developer, and then 2 years later we say to the next developer. Thank you.
All right. So does that convince you to leave it out?
Well, I'm afraid if we leave it out, it won't be in front of us anymore, and we'll forget about it. That's the only. So can we put in there some kind of a light reminder without making it a requirement? I mean, it's not. This is not a binding document, so it's just suggestions that we follow. Would that make you nervous?
Well,
Are we making? Excuse me, Mr. Hunt, are we making a record? Because I don't think we can hear you if you don't speak into the microphone for the public. If you don't mind.
What if the action or the policy is to look into this issue further? Same as some of our other zoning things, like such as we're saying, look into the smaller footprint homes more. Then it stays in front of planning and zoning, get to it when as need arises, it brings it to the front of the pack, but that allows more opportunity for discussion.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen tonight.
I just don't want it to disappear from us. That's all.
Right, so maybe a action item to consider the developing standards for buffers.
Okay, an action item then.
I would agree with that. The only thing that I would say, just in summary, and thank you, Melanie, is that all of this is going to evolve. We're not going to see a General Motors plant probably come to Fairfield. We may see an Amazon type distribution or something like that. So it's all going to evolve, and the study issue is a good resolution to it, I think. It points out need for it, but it doesn't dictate how to establish it. I think that's fine. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so that's an action item under G4.
Right,
To study that,
right.
correct?
So it'd follow P3. Oh, yeah, an action item.
All right.
Is that
A1 under
A1 under P3?
under G4.
Under G4.
Under G4.
Okay.
So it would be action item 1.
Okay.
Okay, anything else under that section? If not, I'd entertain a motion to pass this section with those 2 suggestions that we talked about.
Right.
The first, you want me to repeat the suggestion?
Yeah, would you?
Yes.
The first suggestion was G3P1, require pedestrian amenities such as sidewalks, crosswalks, street furniture, bike lanes, and other amenities in accordance with existing complete streets policy.
That sounds good.
And then under G4, we're going to add an action item 1 to study the separate future industrial site from residential areas through barriers, buffers, whatever. I don't have the whole thing.
Develop policy for buffers between industrial/commercial and residential zonings.
Oh, okay.
Something to that effect.
Right.
Consider.
Consider develop. There we go.
Study the considering.
Consider.
Of development. I move that we approve the goals, policy statements, and action items as amended for the community character section of the implementation plan.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Flournoy, second by Anderson. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's been passed unanimously with those two updates. Section Economic Development on page 147. And 148, actually. 2 pages. Alrighty. You gonna have questions, Doug? You're still looking?
I'm still going through them. I think they're mostly okay. Oh, here's one I'm interested in. So there was one action item in there that was initiated an enhanced rental inspection program to help protect Fairfield renters. I know we have a rental inspection program, but was this the intent of this to strengthen it in some fashion? Does it need strengthening? Scott's not here, I guess.
I think we took that out because we have an inspection program for renters with the intent that we're probably gonna look at a building code, which will be a different animal, which will in turn strengthen our rental code also.
Okay. Is that in here somewhere? Because I don't remember seeing anything about building codes.
No, but there is something, I thought there was something in there about looking at it, reviewing or accepting or implementing a building code.
It was in an earlier section.
Was it?
It got moved?
Yeah.
Under housing.
I believe so.
All right.
Yeah, it was there. I remember seeing it.
All right.
Yeah, under housing, under G2. Improve the rental housing inspection program to ensure rental housing meets minimum standards for quality of life and property maintenance.
So that's good.
Okay.
I'm good with the rest.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Anderson, second by Hallie. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. Last section, transportation and mobility.
And I wanted that to be the streets CIP.
What chapter is that, 12?
Yes.
I know.
I am working off the spreadsheet from last November, so they're out of order.
Melanie, under G2, do we want to reference our new street CIP?
CIP. Yeah.
Since we went to the effort to have a 5-year street CIP, it'd be really great to reference it here. Do you have a recommendation? That wouldn't be an action, would it? Or would it be an action? Because we approved the CIP last meeting. The street CIP. At least use it as a point of reference when determining priority projects or something.
Right, and I think maybe that's a policy under that of, to reference said document and continue to update. I mean, if you think of this as a 20-year plan.
Then we would have to continue to update the street CIP.
Yep.
I say since we passed it at the last meeting, it would make sense under G2 that we would make some sort of reference to that as a policy to reference the street CIP and continue to update that throughout the life of this document.
Okay, so you're suggesting a P1 under G2.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're going to be referencing the street plan CIP that we passed last week.
All right.
Well, the wording needs to be beyond that as well, that we would continually develop a CIP that would be
Street
referenced,
CIP.
because this is a 20-year document and that's a 5-year CIP.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote down referenced city street CIP and continue to update throughout life of comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Or document
Our document. Yeah.
Okay.
of,
Not here, but I think somewhere we should put in here a timeline for checking and rechecking this document every 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan.
Not just say it, but have it in the plan as with set dates that we're going to check it on
Like every 5 years.
every 5 years. Pull it out, go through it
Review.
again, update it.
Not sure where that would go.
I have one more thing that I thought of that I guess it might go under economic development. We've already covered it, but
What section does that go under?
I don't see one.
Yeah.
for what, the
Can we add an administrative?
review, you mean?
I'll ask,
Oh,
why don't I just ask Confluence on where that would fit in
Okay.
to put into the plan?
would it be like an introduction or something?
I say there's a goals in up at the beginning. We could make it a goal to review every 5 years.
That's a good idea.
Goals, policies, action items. Implementation plan overview, we could just put it as part of that, to be
Yeah.
reviewed every 5 years. Hopefully. Without adding a whole nother section.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And one more thing.
Oh, okay.
So, what control do we have over minimum wage in the city of Fairfield? So I was thinking about economic development, and I know you wanted to raise up or take as many people as we could out of poverty. Do we have any influence over the minimum wage that's paid in Fairfield?
The state legislator has made it illegal for local jurisdictions to set the minimum wage higher than the federal minimum wage. So no city, county can do that in the state of Iowa.
So that's out.
Yep, for now.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve P1 under G2. As written by Aaron.
Oh,
P1, G2, and that's under the implementation plan?
That's the street. Sorry. It's under G2 right there. I think,
Approve the whole
properly
section.
maintain the transportation infrastructure, that would be the reference to the street comprehensive plan.
Yes, okay, that's what I got, all right.
Approve the whole section with that.
Oh, yeah, the whole section.
The whole section.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
so that was a motion to approve this whole section with that amendment.
Second.
Sorry.
And a second by Hallie. Any other discussion?
Do you, just before we do that, why don't we just add the 5-year review as part of that motion, and then we'll be done with that?
The whole motion, when you accept the whole plan, add that 5-year to it.
Oh, yeah,
Here we go.
Aaron,
yes,
every 5 years, the town needs to recodify its ordinances. And maybe you want to word it so that you just bounce this off of your comprehensive plan whenever you do your 5-year recodification.
which we do every 20 years.
So John is suggesting that this plan be reviewed every 5 years when the codes are.
Yeah.
I think that's
You're
That's a good
not
idea.
involving a
Right.
planning agency with your code, recodification anyway, about that often. So they ought to take a look at it too.
Okay.
My opinion.
Smart guy. That's why we pay him the big bucks.
it's not his first rodeo.
So my motion is only for this section still.
Okay, so we got a motion on the floor and a second to pass the transportation and mobility section.
right.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that section's passed unanimously. Now, do we need to add that additional thing? What John is suggesting?
I actually added it with that last review and update comprehensive plan every 5 years with codification.
Well, that
For-
wasn't the motion yet.
Which, that's not part of the motion yet, which, as Melanie had pointed out, when
We'll
we,
do that with the big,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Are we ready for that?
Is that a full codification? Is that something the council does? Is that a committee?
No, that's,
Is
well,
that,
the entire city's involved in the codification. What's been going on over the last, when did it start?
3 years.
Well, it's been ongoing since I've been here. We have Simmer and Corey going through the codification, our code. They've been sending us questions. We've been filling out the questions, whether it be city departments or gone to some council committees to look at, and then it's all been sent back. Bringing it up reminds me that I sent them an email asking for an update as to where our codification was, and I haven't got one back yet. So it's something I need to send back on. Hey, just another reminder.
We're still waiting.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
So does anyone have any additional typos or anything they saw through the other pages that they want to bring up?
I'd just like to thank the group that worked on this for months and Confluence for putting together such an incredible plan, and the public for all your input. So someone worded this that the comprehensive plan is a gift to the city from the public. I really like that, very poetic. And I would like to move to accept that gift with the amended 5-year review along with our codification schedule.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any discussion? I do have a question. In fact, I have 2 questions. On page 11, under household and families, these numbers don't exactly match up, and I'm like, am I not understanding? In the paragraph above household and families, you know, it talks about household size being 2.32, and now this is minor. Down below it says 2.31. Family size in the narrative says 2.96. Down below, oh, that's renter occupied. Never mind. Approximately 57.6 households live in owner occupied. And then down below in the graph, or the circle, it says 63.5. So am I missing something there? Are those numbers right? Or are they off?
Those would be statistics that Jane probably found somewhere or is using from, I'm not sure where she finds her statistics, so I can't answer as to what's correct and what's not.
She may have gotten her stats from 2 different sources and they conflicted with each other. That's not unusual.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was kind of strange. Josh, come on up.
I don't have any facts, but I think there is 60.
Hey.
What's under there?
Maybe that's something we could contact about. I think there's, last time I looked, 6,400 households in the city. Again, I think she got that from possibly the U.S. Census Bureau. I think that's where she got this one from was incorrect, possibly.
Checks.
Okay.
Last time I looked, I think it was 6,400
Page 11.
Okay.
households in
I can
the
have,
city.
I can have her check her stats on page 11.
Yep. I just have one other question, and then I'll be quiet. Page 43 talks about be prepared to protect and recover from natural disasters. A1 says study and advance plans for disaster resiliency and recovery. Should there be anything in there about testing and revising and during that?
Which chapter is that?
That's under infrastructure. That's chapter 4.
Isn't that why we have the EMS people here, like Brett?
Emergency management.
Well, there's a safety committee.
Some of that is partially emergency management. We're working on a disaster recovery plan for the city focuses more on IT stuff right now than anything else, but there will be a few things as far as disaster recovery coming in the near future for the city anyway.
Was it P1 under G1?
Well, you know what? I was in the narrative up in the main chapter.
Okay. You said, you meant an action item, didn't you?
Well, it does mention action item on page 43.
Studying
Here.
and advanced plans for disaster resiliency and recovery.
And, you know, maybe that doesn't need to be in there. I was just questioning, because it doesn't really state that. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So
That's something we work with emergency management anyway, but also we're working on a plan currently.
Okay.
It might just be a good place to reference our EMS. What is his title?
Emergency management.
Coordinator.
Coordinator. I think that's coordinator.
You can just say work with emergency management coordinator. Because he's the one that's going to be doing the studying of the advanced plans. And they do the run-throughs.
That's part of their training, yeah.
That's part of their training, yeah.
Alrighty.
So you're not going to edit that action item because it's already been passed. You're going to edit the narrative.
I think so. I mean, that's up to you guys.
That's fine. I'm just.
I would think it's
Mayor, there are a number of what I did is I read the earlier version, the October version, and I'm just comparing it to the current version. There remain a number of typos in the current version. I don't know to what extent we want to spend the time to go through them. Or
Have you
not,
marked it up?
but-
Do you have a marked up version?
I do.
Could you
Do they
just give
change
it
the
to
meaning
Aaron?
of anything?
They don't change the meaning though. I don't
Okay.
think so. I don't think so, no.
I still, if we're gonna go to the effort to have this document, we want it to reflect well on the city.
Yeah.
I would have Aaron convey the typos to the company that we're paying to do this.
I can certainly share that with the city administrator, absolutely, at the,
Do you think? If you've got a marked up version of it, I
I'd
would
be
do
happy
that.
to forward that on for them to fix their typos.
okay, I can do that.
We want to put our best foot forward on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, right?
And a second.
And a second, but we added one more thing. So you're okay with adding the little emergency management, referencing that on
Sure,
page?
I don't know if that position will always be there over the 20 years, but fine.
Probably.
Putting it in as a reference.
Okay,
You want a motion to amend the motion?
Well, if I accept it and then our second accepts it, then pass it as so.
Amended.
Motion to pass comprehensive plan with all the amendments aforementioned.
okay, any more discussion?
Just get them all. Just get them all.
All those in favor, I'm gonna say, let's call a roll this time, just to get it on the books. This is the big pass.
Is Gandy still my second on that?
Gandy's your second.
Let's go. Okay. Okay. Hallie,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson, Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
All right, that motion passed unanimously, so we have a passed comprehensive plan.
Can I make a request? Yeah. That once all the typos are fixed and it's in its final form, can we each get a copy at the next council meeting after that's all done?
Great, sounds like a good idea. All righty.
I mean, a nice copy like this.
So can I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
We made those, but I would hope they'd print them for us.
Moved by Toohill. Second. Second by Rasmussen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, special meeting closed.
Except this is great. I mean.